This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Hello and welcome to Tracks from the Edge, Trek FM's show in which we watch every single episode of Star Trek Discovery and provide audio commentary for each and every one, so you can watch Discovery right along with us and listen to us talk about it while you're watching. I'm Mike.
I'm Max.
And today we are going to be looking at episode 11 of Discovery, The Wolf Inside. So, we're going to give a countdown and start this thing up. If you're not watching along with the episode, that's okay. As long as you've seen the episode, you should probably be able to follow along with what we're saying. Occasionally, we might say something like, oh, look at that cool thing right there. And you might not know what we're talking about, but you know what? These things happen. Who really cares? So, if you're ready, Max.
Totally.
Let's start this up in 3. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally forgot. Go past that CBS logo, or if you're in Canada, go past that Crave logo, or if you're in some other part of the world, go past that Netflix logo until you're in the black right before the episode itself starts, and then we will all be in sync. Okay, now are you ready, Max?
Well, now, yes.
Okay. All right.
Still.
Okay. Then we will start this up in 3, 2, 1, start. Oh, and they're turning the USS Discovery into the ISS Discovery, and then we're seeing all these people who are rather concerned about the fact that they're now in the mirror universe. And also, you know, we're talking here about Stamets being non-responsive, and we're talking about Voq.
What's he doing here?
He's being all Voq-like. And Tyler,
forgot about him, just like I forgot about that other guy.
Which guy? Tyler? Oh, Takuvma? Yeah.
Whatever his name was.
Okay, and there's Tyler breaking Culver's neck, and there's that Defiant again, which, by the way, one of the writer-producers, Ted Sullivan, confirmed that the reason why it looks different from the original series is because over the past 100 years, the Terran Empire has modified it into a more efficient killing machine, presumably.
Okay.
And now we are back into the actual episode. Now look at this. This is really cool. Okay, so we've got this sweeping establishing shot of the disco, which goes into a window, and we're into the ship. Now, I mean, that's really cool on its own, but let's just put a pin in that for a minute. And here we are in some rather mysterious-looking things. Now, it does seem kind of strange to me that if the power is out in this section of the ship, and she's literally right next to sickbay, that no one would be like, hey, sickbay, you guys doing okay over there without any lights? I don't know. Maybe the geography is weird here, but, you know, whatever. But it does look cool, right? Great photography.
Sure. I mean, it's very Doom. You know, it's got the flickering lights. It's all poorly lit, and then there's sudden flashes of heavy shadows.
Yeah.
It's cool. You know, it's space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a little bit more aliens than Star Trek, but that's fine.
Yes, and now we see Stamets with Culver's body in sickbay, and he's talking about the forest and seeing the forest through the trees or whatever it is, walking through the trees, and okay, so now here's this other shot of now the Shenzhou, right? And it's the same kind of establishing shot, and then we pull into a window in here to get into that story. And I think that that's really kind of cool in terms of, just like a little directing thing and in terms of like, structure and everything, because it kind of signals in a way that, I mean, this is a rather unique episode of Disco in that there's basically two completely separate sort of like paths which this episode goes down, right? I mean, there's the story on Discovery and there's the story on the Shenzhou, and it really cuts back and forth between those two in, Empire Strikes Back like fashion, in a sense.
Well, my wife says that she is wearing La Perla lingerie, by the way.
Oh, that's
which is a present day brand that exists.
That's interesting to know. We've seen a lot of like real world things, like for example their jogging shoes are a Nike shoe, the Nike Sock Dart, I think it's called. I don't know, I've got them. Let me tell you, those shoes, the most uncomfortable shoes in the history of shoes, but regardless. So yeah, I just,
you ever worn clogs? Wooden clogs? Those aren't great.
I don't know, these things are basically like an outsole with a sock on top and a little rubber thing on the back for some mysterious reason.
Okay.
If you like this scene, check out The Shape of Water, now in theaters, starring Doug Jones, directed by Guillermo del Toro. But yeah, I have to say I was kind of shocked to see Saru here, but I really do like the way that they kind of utilize the character in this, mirror universe. It's like, yeah, he's a subordinate, right? I mean, to humans, right? Being a Kelpian, it just makes sense that he would be like a slave. So that's kind of cool. And I'm guessing that he'll play some sort of big part in the revolution, but who knows for sure. Now, I don't know. In the last episode, they had like just one little line where they were like, oh, we got rid of those inefficient, like, horizontal transporter things and replaced them with the standard vertical ones. And I know that was, I can't remember if they talk about, like, I never noticed that that's what it was supposed to be, but like those big silver discs, on the back wall there of the Shenzhou transporter, that's essentially supposed to be what they use to transport people on that ship. And I can't remember whether there was just a line in one of the episodes or whether it was in the book, but basically they were like, these things are extremely inefficient in terms of their energy consumption and everything like that. And now we've developed these, vertical ones, which are much better. And that's what all the regular ships use and all that good stuff. And there was just a line in there where someone's like, oh, did you see how he switched over? And I have to go back and look at what the ship looked like in those first couple episodes, but I'm almost wondering if that's because they're using essentially the same set, and they're just like, we're not going to take apart this whole piece that we added for Discovery. We're just going to say whatever they built on top of the Shenzhou, and those big discs in the background there don't do anything anymore. They're kind of like in a projection booth at a movie theater where you have like the 35 millimeter projector just sitting off to the side, not doing anything. Or
that extra hole for the second 35 millimeter projector.
Exactly. There you go. That's a good analogy. Yeah. And here we have Tyler, and he seems to be kind of freaking out a bit, which is understandable. Interesting to know. So
everyone in the world called the Tyler thing, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
I mean, whatever. That's over.
The kind of the saddest part of all of it, the thing which, I guess I wasn't ready for emotionally when this storyline came to its conclusion, was the fact that the Twitter account for real Javid Iqbal may now be null and void or something. Because that was honestly, I mean, I'm going to say top 10 Twitter accounts in the world for the past, 6 months or whatever it is. 3 months. The flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long or something, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
Sure. The hidden twist ending that everyone sees coming burns twice as hard.
Oh, I was talking about the Twitter account.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So we're still in the teaser here, which everyone keeps noting because...
my wife tells me that is also La Perla.
Okay. All right. So she shops at La Perla. This is good to know.
I don't think they have stores. I think they sell out of other stores.
Okay. All right. Well... So yeah, this teaser's like 14 minutes long, which is the longest in Star Trek history, which is like a third of the episode, but whatever. They used to do that on Alias all the freaking time,
Yeah, and it was like really kind of exhausting on that show. It was like, who really? I don't care.
I mean, I don't know. My thing with Alias, what I would always do for just no reason other than because, I don't know, it's just kind of how my brain works, is I would always try to find the best place to end the teaser under normal circumstances. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, like how another show would have handled it.
Right. That's just I don't know. Maybe that's weird. Like if I'm watching a new movie, like that I've seen, maybe a million times before, I'll look at like the counter and I'll try to find like the best place to put the side brakes on if it were to be released on Laserdisc. Is that weird?
No, I mean I get that. I watched Glee despite basically hating it since the first season. But there was a point where I realized that every episode of that show ended super awkwardly. Like they didn't know when to end an episode. And I started doing a little game in my head where the episode would end and I would go, okay, all right, they should have ended 2 scenes before then, and it would have been a much better spot. Because those last 2 scenes did nothing. And they would have been fine at the beginning of the next episode. Like, that became like a running thing throughout that show. It was like they would set up, like, they would have these cliffhangers that were not dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Or like they didn't hold out any promise of an interesting thing. It was like they're just setting up for the next episode. Oh, it's over. Okay. And that happened so often that it became like a weird, like, do they know that this is in the episode that they're still in? Or are they just writing the next week's episode? I don't understand. It got so weird.
Okay. So here they're trying to figure out what's going on with Stamets. And she's asking to basically let her take over his medical care, which is weird because it seems like it's almost being presented as this binary thing, like the doctors aren't helping, so let me do it instead. And to me, it's like, how about you work together with the doctors to do this? Because it seems like you may be, crossing over into some shared territory here.
Well, like, at the very least, like, have a doctor come in and talk with the doctor about, like, how you have this weird idea to try using, like, mycology as part of the treatment and working with that aspect of Stamets' new biology. Obviously, something else is going on. Maybe you just get them to sign off on it. Mm-hmm. But... having a meeting between, 2 department heads and determining how best to progress with an issue, not super dramatic television.
It's weird how Culber is apparently not the chief medical officer, and we probably haven't seen one, except for maybe that guy with the space whale, right? But to me, that's like one of those things where it feels like they're trying so hard to make it, kind of a lower deck show and be like, no, he's not the chief medical officer. It's like, okay, well, he's a lieutenant commander. He's the guy who we see whenever there's something really, really big and important. And, it's like, why not? Why not make him the chief medical officer? It seems like it would be better for the story if he were, but I don't know. What do I know? And there's
I for sure thought he was.
Yeah, but he's not.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. This set is great. I know some people have complained that it's too big. I don't know what. I don't have a problem with that. I think it looks cool. They have some leg room. They're not all crammed in there. Why not? Why not make it a little spacious?
I have no feelings about the size of the bridge.
Okay.
No feelings whatsoever. It's not something that concerns me. I am unaware of any debate on the internet webs about the size of the bridge. If there is such a debate, I would point those people to real problems.
And here we are in the actual opening credit sequence. Now, something which I keep on forgetting to bring up, but I noticed this a few weeks ago, and I guess at first we wouldn't really know, but then we would, and I don't know, whatever reason I didn't realize it, but throughout this sequence when, like, objects kind of, like, burst into little particles, like, that's supposed to be, like, the spores.
Yeah.
It takes me a while to pick up on these things. What can I say?
Does that mean anything?
No, it's just a cool design thing. It's like, since we didn't really know about the spore drive up until episode 3, when we watched episodes 1 and 2, we were just like, oh, that's a weird design thing. But now we know. So, co-executive producer Lisa Randolph, she wrote this episode, and she has written for a number of shows in the past, including The Shield and Gilmore Girls. And Ted Sullivan said on After Trek that she essentially only worked on the show for like a few months or something like that. She was essentially on loan from Jessica Jones, and now she's gone back to working on Jessica Jones again. But she's not credited as a writer on Jessica Jones on the IMDb, as far as I can tell, which means she's probably writing season 2 of Jessica Jones. That would be my guess, anyway. And directed by T.J. Scott, who, he's directed some things, some little things like Orphan Black and Longmire and 12 Monkeys or whatever. But to me, the thing that really stands out in his filmography, he's directed 5 episodes of maybe the best show of all time, Cleopatra 2525. I know you're a fan.
Oh, boy. That's hard to deal with.
And, I don't want to... Of course, this isn't as good as Cleopatra 2525, but I think it may be his second best work that I've seen. So, there you go. So here we have the names of these people.
That's Sonequa Martin Green,
yes,
and Jason Isaacs,
and they're talking. They're hashing out their plans, and it's interesting because like Lorca is the commanding officer here, and he certainly has a strategy going forward. But Sonequa Martin Green, Burnham. There you go, Burnham. Michael. Oh, hey, you'd think I would know. Anyway, Michael's character is the one who actually has to like implement. I mean, she literally has as much power over Lorca as she wants. There's literally nothing that, anyone can do to stop her from doing whatever the heck she wants in this particular scenario. So, her trying to convince him to find a peaceful way out, I think is interesting, because honestly, I don't think that he cares about real peace between the Klingons and the humans or whatever, but whatever, he goes along with it. So
well, in his situation, I mean, I would be pretty understanding about, no, just get it done, just get the job done, and let's get out of here. Like, seriously, I know you want to fix things, but I have to get back into the torture box. So maybe get a move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer. She's still got the straight hair. It's a good look. She should probably just own it and stick with it after she leaves the mirror universe.
You sound like her mom.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Because she said, "Oh, my mom would approve." When she gets into the whole thing, she's like, "My mom would approve." Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So here they are talking about this is the fungal technobabble. So biobabble now. Star Trek has expanded beyond technobabble to incorporate biology-based technobabble.
That's cool.
So that's fun stuff.
And does this all tie into that book, Mycelial Running or whatever?
Mycelium Running? No, not really. I mean, there's nothing like this is super sci-fi, like spore network, mycelium networks. It's like they've established that the mycelium network doesn't just spread throughout a biosphere, but also into higher and lower dimensions of space-time, and then past that into other realities, and presumably past that. And so this is they're invoking this sci-fi mycelium network to get away with just about anything. And when you do that, you can get away with just about anything. You can say anything you want as a result of it. It's another way of creating a technology so advanced that it's indistinguishable from magic.
She does have that interesting, really casual line which she just throws out, where it's something like, "Oh, fun fact about fungus. It's the only..." What does she say? It's the only matter in the galaxy which interacts with living and dead tissue or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because there are fungal the mycelium network actually has information in it, and it's actually able to transmit data and nutrients from one thing to another. It can keep things alive, it can bring things back from the dead, but really specifically plants, specifically to the spores themselves. They're a network. They're a biological network. It's like the internet. It's similar to that. So you could make the argument that it makes a lot of things possible if you then incorporate people into that network. Everything gets really fuzzy, and you could argue that almost anything is possible. And because they had that thing in the early on the show where Stamets is "Oh, now I'm part fungus, so I can talk with the network." And it's "Oh, well, yeah, game on. I guess we can get away with anything now." Apparently, that's the thing. All right, I guess you can talk to fungus now. So let's go ahead and use the ship to travel through subspace, because there's a mycelium network in subspace. Okay, sure, whatever. If that's what we're going with.
So we just beamed down to the secret rebel base, and the rebels are comprised of, Klingons are the leaders, it seems like, but also Vulcans, Andorians, and Tellarites, which, is no accident there. The founding members of the Federation minus humans plus Klingons, certainly a mirror to what we see in the Prime timeline. And, one of the things that they said on After Trek was that originally they had considered having Saru as part of the rebellion, and they decided not to, basically because logistically having to deal with all that makeup on location would have been a nightmare. And I think that that's a very fortunate occurrence that he is not down here, because there's something sort of poetic about having this be essentially the Federation, but with Klingons instead of humans. That really does offer like an interesting reflection of the Prime timeline. And, it also, as we're going to see in a few minutes, sort of goes back to what Takuvma was saying in that first episode, where he's talking about, the humans mixing with the Andorians and the Tellarites and the Vulcans, and how terrible that was when they need to remain Klingon and all that stuff. And it all kind of ties in, I think, like kind of nicely. And that's one thing about this episode, which I think is...
It's almost like they wrote that line early on, knowing that they would have this selection of aliens in this tent at this point in time. I don't know how they could have predicted that, all before they shot it.
I wonder, because I mean the way that the production on this show has gone, and so many people have come and gone and everything. I wonder, how far and how specific they had gotten, this far out. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it just makes sense for them to sort of and I mean, that's exactly what you should be doing. You shouldn't be doing the whole, fly by the seat of your pants thing when you're trying to tell one cohesive story over the span of 15 hours. So yeah. And there is a lot of tie-ins to very, very early episodes in this one, which I think is cool, and kind of sort of starts bringing the whole form of this season into focus, where a lot of people, kind of saw, well, we talked about it last week, the mirror universe being kind of like a derailment of the story. Well, now we're seeing how, even if it is maybe in terms of the plot, in terms of the character stuff, in terms of the thematics, it does, all kind of tie back. And that I think it's really effective. I mean, we're seeing some of it now here, obviously, with Sarek. And Sarek gets
it could for sure be a lot worse. I mean, they're still dealing with, because they're in this mirror universe, it's unfortunate that Lorca can't get a good look at it, because he's not going to be learning any lessons from this experience. He's pretty much just probably going to get killed at some point, and it'll be because he's too much like these guys.
Maybe. It's curious. I'm curious to see who makes it through to the end of the season, and who doesn't. And just in terms of the main six, I kind of think that Tyler and Lorca will be gone, and probably everyone else will still be here, I mean, who knows? They could try doing something with Tyler where it's oh no, see, look, we've restored his humanity. But I wonder if he's going
to nobly sacrifice himself for sure.
That could be, I mean, because you do get into some really tricky territory if you're we can get rid of his Vokeness and just make him Tyler, because it's well, but he is Voke, I mean, this is, is it morally right to just get rid of the Voke part of him because you don't like Voke? That doesn't seem to make sense. So, I mean, I kind of don't think that they're going to go that route. I mean, I guess the noble sacrifice thing seems to be the most logical course of action. But, yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a big flashing red button, and Michael's going to make an appeal for Tyler's humanity, and he's going to go, yeah, I can't join you, but I can, throw myself onto this button. So, problem solved.
There you go. So here we have, this is the moment. And I think that it's kind of cool. And I mean, you think about the mirror universe and you think about the whole like, aha, we're going to get to see this character, but she's evil, that kind of thing. But like, this is sort of like, as far as like mirror universe stuff and in terms of like thematics and everything, especially the way that this character, his arc has been going the entire season, it's like he's literally face to face with his mirror self, which is also, sort of like buried deep inside of him. And I mean, it's maybe a little on the nose, but I mean, that's the mirror universe for you, right? It's a very on the nose alternate reality, and I
kind of bummed out that Vogue doesn't have a goatee in this. I feel like that would have been that's like it's obvious, It's also like if you saw it, you'd be like, whoa,
like kind of like a Worf style goatee.
Yeah, like straight up, that would be amazing. That would blow my mind. I would have been like, whoa, these guys know what they're doing. And because they didn't do that, I'm like, I don't know if these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. No, but they do give the goatee to Sarek, which is a nice nod to the original series, of course.
Yeah.
Some people have to have goatees, for sure. And that also kind of, because everyone talks about like, oh, in the mirror universe, everyone has goatees, but it's kind of cool to think like, no, that's just kind of how Vulcans, that's it's become like in vogue on Vulcan to have goatees in this particular universe. I don't know. What do you think about the Andorian tweaked Andorian design?
I don't really like. I'm still, dealing with the subtle tweaks to the Klingon appearance.
Oh, okay.
So the slight tweak to the Andorian appearance is, that's not even a blip to me. It's like, oh, they're a little bumpier.
I like the way the Andorians look now, but that one guy in particular, like the way that the makeup is kind of like placed on his like cheekbones or whatever, like I keep on thinking he looks like a Dr. Seuss character. I don't know. See, doesn't he look like the Grinch or something like that? Just kind of like a blue version of the Grinch. He's like a blue Grinch. I don't know.
Yep, equally huggable.
Yeah. Have you seen that poster for the new Grinch movie where it's got the little kid Grinch and it says like he'll get meaner or something like that?
I didn't even know that there was a new movie.
Yeah, it's the cutest thing you've ever seen, but at the same time it kind of signals the idea that like the Grinch, it's going to like show the Grinch like getting bullied into like the person that he becomes, in the book and whatever.
So it's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Phantom Menace.
I think it's going to be kind of like the expanded, unabridged How the Grinch Stole Christmas. You got to fill out that 90-minute running time. So, let's throw in a backstory. Kind of like, it's like Rob Zombie's.
Oh my God, it's The Hobbit.
It's Rob Zombie's Grinch is what it is, kind of like what he did with Halloween.
That makes it sound better than it seems like it could be.
I'll send you the picture, but whatever. My point is he kind of looks like a green Andorian without any antenna. So
yeah,
whatever.
It's weird. All right, so
I like that they made Detmer the first officer. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah.
All right.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, this is where they're talking about Stamets and his spore recovery, and there's a point where Saru is like, "Oh, it's not working," and she's like, "But honestly, what is it?" Not working? Like nothing that we're doing has any obvious result. Like his readings are evening out and then getting worse. Like what we're doing doesn't make any sense. Like we're letting fungus fix his brain, And how did it get that way in the first place? Oh, yeah, it was that fungus. Yeah, I don't really have a good plan here. Like, let's just ride it out, man. Let's see what happens. None of this scene doesn't work. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, because what they established early on, I think that like Tilly is like the best like theoretical physicist on the ship or something like that. I seem to remember them saying that. So she's like, I've got a theory and this is how it's going to work. And maybe like Saru is like very literal, and like if something doesn't go exactly the way you tell him it's going to go, he's just like, it's not working. You know what I mean? I mean, there's people like that. I've certainly worked with people like that where it's like, well, hang on. Let's just see if this, if this program does reboot or whatever.
Yeah. Here's the thing, like if he dies because this plan doesn't work, like he was kind of dead before.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a huge loss. Like if this works, it works great, and if it fails, it accomplishes nothing and changes nothing. So let it play out.
I mean, I guess that's
it's a weak scene, is all I'm saying.
Okay. But I mean, that is like a medical thing, certainly, which people talk about all the time, where it's like, if we use traditional medicine, this person is going to have a certain standard of living or whatever, or maybe like a certain life expectancy or whatever it is. And, but we could try this experimental thing, and either they're going to get, they're going to make a 100% recovery, or they're going to die in 5 minutes. Right. And I mean, I guess that's kind of the equivalent. And, you got to sort of ask yourself, which is the way to go. So, this has got to be...
Yeah, it's a couple hundred years in the future. They moved on. Okay. This is the scene where Tyler comes out as Vogue to Michael. Michael's like, what? And the audience is like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, an unfortunate instance of the audience being ahead of the show, but whatever.
Like, I don't care about the twist anymore. Like the problem is like we kind of know how this is going to go now. Like, we know he's going to be like taken to the Discovery. He's going to be put in the brig, and then he's going to get out of the brig, and he and Laurel are going to do some stuff, and they're going to take control of the Discovery, and then they're going to have to go after it, and they're going to have to shoot at him, and then Michael's going to be all conflicted about it, and it's going to end up with them, facing off, just like she's faced off against Klingons twice in the past by beaming over to the ship and getting into a fist fight with them. It's
one of those things where, like, you look at this episode, and if without the knowledge, without the sort of like, reasonable guessing, which everyone has done, like, this is a big episode. Like, oh, like they're flat out saying for real now exactly what happened. Like, he is Vogue. And then there's also the reveal at the end, right? So, like, this is an episode kind of like, the last episode, I guess, where, you're supposed to be like, what? Oh my God, But in reality, since everybody like already guessed these things, it's just kind of like, oh, this is an episode where nothing happens. It almost feels like an episode where nothing happens, because while there is a lot of stuff that's happening, it's all stuff which the audience already figured out. It's just kind of an interesting thing. Like, I'm because of that. Like, my opinion of this episode was, I mean, I didn't think it was bad or anything, but my opinion of the episode was kind of like, okay, that so the story has progressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes next, because as I've talked about many times in the past, like, I've always been sort of like surprised and had absolutely no idea where the story was going, and this was the first time where I was like, well, I know in the next episode this is going to happen and this is going to happen, and I was just kind of like waiting for those things to happen, and then they happened. So I'm kind of interested to see what my reaction to this episode will be once I, kind of like rewatch the series as a whole, and there isn't the whole like, what's the big twist this week? It's just kind of like, let's just see the story play out and see how it plays out, kind of like dramatically as part of this larger whole instead of as just this like, the twist of the week or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just don't feel that way. Like it's like we kind of knew a lot of these twists way ahead of time, and some of them we predicted before the show started. Like we all kind of knew that the Shenzhou wouldn't last very long, and we were like, is it going to blow up in the first episode, or is it going to be the second episode? Are they going to save it for the sixth episode? And like by the end of the first episode, we were all kind of like, yeah, it'll be the end of the next episode. Whatever, it's going to happen. And, we started, seeing things happen, not the entire run ahead, but like 3 or 4 episodes ahead.
Certain elements.
With Vogue, I guess it was 6 episodes? 7
yeah,
episodes?
I mean, certain elements, but not, I don't think the overall arc of the show, But this shot right here with the close-up of the gun and out of focus with the super wide-angle lens thingy going on. I like that shot. It's an alien shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good shot.
This is another example of a dramatic conceit that people do in movies and television all the time, of like somebody holding a gun on somebody that they definitely cannot trust and should probably subdue or shoot as soon as possible, and they don't, and they don't, and they don't, and then that person smacks the gun out of their hand and tries to kill them.
Yeah, but in this case, I think it's not just sort of like one of those like, let me explain my plan to you things. I mean, like, she's freaking out because, as we established earlier in the series, like, she's never been in love. And then I think it's earlier in this episode, she's like, I love you, And
the thing is, that gun has a stun setting.
Yeah.
Like, that changes the entire dynamic. That means, like, shoot him, talk to him later.
I guess so. At the same time, I think she's kind of like, I need to know now. I don't want to stun him. Now here she's trying to give him a Vulcan neck pinch, but he's got that big pad on. Do you think like she'd even be able to get it through there? I don't know. And Saru to the rescue. Although it does seem kind of strange that, like, especially in this universe where everyone is so suspicious of everyone else, that like the slaves just kind of have like free access to come in and out of their quarters whenever they want. It's like the second time he's done it.
He's super chill. He's a Kelpian. Like, he pretty much only freaks out when things are good.
Okay, that could be. Yeah.
As long as things are bad, he's going to be very reliable.
I guess so.
If everything starts going well, he's going to go crazy and break your guns in his hands. So one thing about the Mirror Universe that has been an ongoing thing is that despite like a radically different psychology, their architecture is virtually identical. I don't buy it.
I think that might have something to do with practicality in television production. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there's like one thing about the Mirror Universe that like legitimately like makes me think about it more than I should, and that is that on Deep Space Nine. A character who was not a real person.
You're not supposed to bring that up, okay?
Okay, he's not a real person. He wasn't alive. He might have been based on a real person who was alive centuries before, but he did not exist. And yet his mirror universe counterpart did exist. So what that really means is that the mirror universe is tied not so much to the laws of physics of the prime universe, but really more than anything to the faces of people in the Prime Universe, and their appearances. So, like, if you made a hologram.
Okay, look. Here's the thing, right? This is what I'm saying.
Which you should not do.
This is what I'm saying. If you got to kind of look at it the way they like judge competitions at the Olympics, where they get the list of judges' scores and they throw out the top score and they throw out the bottom score and then they average everything else between it to get, like the official score or whatever it is. Like that's what you have to do, I think, with Star Trek on the whole. And when it comes to the mirror universe, when, you see, Vic show up, right? You just say like, okay, that doesn't count. Clearly, someone was having an off day. Or maybe, James Darren had like an extra show that they were like contractually obligated to put him in, and they didn't have any other storylines for him. So they were like, well, we can put him in here and nobody will notice or something. Right? I mean, but it's just one of those things where you're just like, we're going to ignore that.
They don't ignore it. They address it in the episode. They're like, what? You're here? Wait a minute. That opens some serious problems for me. I need to address this. This concerns my understanding of reality significantly. I would really like to get to the bottom of this issue before we deal with the life and death stuff, because maybe that's much less important than what's happening right here.
But what I'm saying is, as viewers, you just kind of have to say, okay, we're not going to count that one.
I don't agree. I count it significantly higher than the appearance of everyone else, because that says something significant. It doesn't say like, oh, other people are there. We knew that already. We knew that from the first episode. That appearance means something much deeper than the mirror universe's loose connection to our universe. It's not just a mirror. It's a mirror like outside of a fourth wall.
And you don't think that it could by any chance mean that Ira Stephen Bear is like, I really love James Darren and I'd love to see the character of Vic in the mirror universe because I think that would be funny. And then he did it because of that. Do you think there was really anything more to it than
I have no doubt that that's exactly what it was. Nevertheless, that decision impacts the reality of the mirror universe.
Okay. Was that their last episode? Because it really could have been just one of those things where that writing staff was just like, what do we care? You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be going back to the mirror universe anytime soon. Screw it. Let's just do it. Why not?
Some of them might be going over to Voyager, and you think Voyager is going to be going to the mirror universe? No, I don't think so. No. I agree that to a great extent it was it'll be funny. Who cares? People will be like, what? How? And maybe one dude in Chicago will be like, what? How? For 20 years.
And I think they'd be like, that's even funnier. Now we have to do it. Anyway. What were we talking about? Discovery.
We were talking about Vic Fontaine being in the mirror universe, and how that means of the mirror universe is literally a fourth wall reference. So
I'm okay with that. I mean, that show did a lot. I mean, we've discussed at great length, the idea of Benny Russell and all that stuff, right? So
yeah, I agree. I think that that we have to incorporate the possibility that the fourth wall is a player in Star Trek mythology.
Yeah, and Deep Space Nine in particular. So, yeah.
They're all connected.
Yeah.
Except for the animated series and the latter seasons of Enterprise.
Oh, boy.
And the J.J. Abrams films.
Okay, all right.
And the episode Tuvix.
All right. So here it is. Here it is. The Empress. Now, one thing which I found interesting in listening to the last episode of Notes from the Edge right here on Trek.fm was that in the novels, Hoshi remained Empress until for 120 years until Spock kills her, post Mirror Mirror. And apparently she would clone herself, and there were 3 Empress Hoshis or something like that. But obviously they were like, well, let's throw that out for this thing because, of course, it has to be Giorgio. Of course.
Yeah.
So that's
all that.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone kind of figured that out. So yeah, that's The Wolf Inside. Be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. Live from the Edge airs on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern with Bruce and Brandy, and will be released as a podcast on Tuesday mornings. Then on Wednesdays, that's when we release our commentary show, Tracks from the Edge. And on Thursdays, we'll get to hear all of your feedback on Postcards from the Edge with Amy Nelson. Of course, you can catch the full analysis on the Edge main show on Friday, which is hosted by Brandon Matala. And then we wrap up the week on Saturday or sometimes early Sunday with Notes from the Edge, where our very own Chris Jones finds links between Discovery and the broader franchise. You can find all of these shows in the main feed for The Edge, and you can also find them in the Trek FM master feed. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Discovery. The best place to do that is in the Babel Conference, which is our listeners group on Facebook. If you look for the little envelope, you'll see a thread in which Amy Nelson will collect your feedback for Postcards from the Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at TrekFM, and you can send us an email on the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Just choose to send to a show and choose the Edge. We'd like to thank our associate producers today, Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, and Cornelia Reitner. Thank you very much, everybody. If you'd like to be like our associate producers, you can become a patron of the network. Just head on over to patreon.com/TrekFM, and you can become an associate producer or, just donate at any level of your choosing. We appreciate any support you can give us. All right. Well, that was fun talking about The Wolf Inside, and oh my God, there's only 4 episodes left. Only 4 episodes left of Star Trek Discovery. It's kind of sad that it's coming to an end. I don't know what I'm going to do on Sunday nights anymore. But regardless, we will be back next week to talk about Episode 12.